Welcome to Harmony and a conversation I've been dying to have and share with you all. You guys know Kevin Donahue, of course. He's been a part of the show, the Tennessee Harmony Show, for about a year. Kevin's been talking to me about his friend Jeremy Locke from Aero Recovery for about a year, and particularly as it relates to roll call and hey Jason, when Tucker and Randy Houser and these celebrities, you gotta get my guy Jeremy and his people to take care of your people to make sure they're safe. Jeremy has a company that he and his wife founded called Aero Recovery, and so whenever you hear about fires in the Palisades, you hear about flooding in North Carolina, you hear about any of these disasters, you sit around and go, oh, thank God it wasn't me. Jeremy thinks, how can I help? I got to get there, and I got to save people's lives, and I got to make people's lives easier. Jeremy Locke, welcome to Harmony. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. So let's just start with Aero Recovery and the work you do. Why'd you start it? How'd you get involved? Why is this part of your mission?
Yeah, so Aero Recovery, we're a nonprofit right here out of Nashville, Tennessee, and it really came a lot about a necessity, right? They say necessity is the mother of invention, but I met my now wife in 2018, and in 2019, I was still active duty. You know, I'm a retired Special Forces soldier out of 5th Special Forces Group, and so I was in between my deployments to Syria, and in talking to her, she's always had a missionary's heart, and a heart to serve and help people. And at that time of my life, I had a heart to go out and fight wars and battles as a Green Beret. But when I came back here in Nashville, I spent most of my time on Broadway. I spent most of my time drinking. I spent most of my time thinking that all the stuff that I had done overseas, that was the goodness that I did for the year. And the other 6 months I was back, I could kind of do whatever, right? So my wife has been a huge inspiration to me. And in seeing in 2019, Hurricane Dorian hit the Bahamas. And I remember going down to right there on 3rd Street in downtown Nashville. She used to have an office down there. And I went to go visit her, and she's working on this whiteboard up there, and it looked like an operations plan. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, well, I'm going to go to the Grand Bahama and Abaco, and I'm going to help people. They're about to get hit by this hurricane, Category 5, that sat over the Grand Bahama for 24 hours, right? And I was like, well, I want to come and help. And I went out there and I took some leave, deployed with her, and I saw a lot of people in need. And what I saw was similar to what I would see overseas in war. There was the same need, right? Whether it's war-torn or Mother Nature-torn, people need facilities, they need food, they need shelter, they need electricity, they need the basic needs. And this is something I was equipped to do. And being a Green Beret and working in the Special Operations Community, we're very good at traveling places and helping people from internal problems. And that was kind of like the genesis of Aero Recovery. Was she had her nonprofit out there at the time, it was Aero Global Community. I joined up with her. She saw an operations potential with myself and people like me that come from a military and first responder background to go and help. And we did that response. We came back and we started discussing, like, how can we grow this and make this bigger? And that's what we did. And we created Aero Recovery out of it. And we've helped over 8,000 people to date already. And that's only been in about 5 years.
It sounds like, and not to diminish what you're doing, but it also sounds like you helped yourself because you got a wife out of this deal as well.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the best part.
Maybe I was just trying to impress a girl, right? Is that?
Well,
that happens all the time too.
Walk us back through, let's start with the Green Beret and your military service. Where'd you grow up? When did you decide you wanted to serve in the military and to take on that challenge? Not just serve in the military, you want to be a Green Beret.
Yeah, so I'm from the Pacific Northwest originally. Originally from Portland, Oregon, back before it fell apart.
Portland, Oregon. Kevin.
Oh yeah,
I know. That's raising East Nashville.
Is he an undercover?
You never know.
Undercover leftist.
It's possible.
Did he leave Antifa to join? Anyway,
you never leave. No, I'm just joking. But so that's originally where I'm from. But my grandpa, my whole family's West Coast from California all the way up to British Columbia, and my grandpa was a World War II veteran, combat engineer, and was the situation in my life as I grew up we spent a lot of time, I say we, my sister and I, with my grandparents. And I learned a lot of great values. He's an Irish immigrant, Irish Catholic immigrant. My grandma is what they call First Nation. So she's Indigenous Canadian. And that's kind of where I have a lot of my tattoos from, is from the Cree Indian tribe. But I learned a lot of my values through them. I learned hard work. I learned about Christ. I learned about being not just a man, but a gentleman. And I learned about the importance of, if you have the ability, you need to serve in causes that you believe in. And that's, I felt this itch when I was, getting ready to get out of high school, and I wanted to go serve my country. And I joined in 2001, joined the Army in 2001, and no, it was July of 2001. So
really?
I joined there to just kind of to get away from Oregon. I wanted to go travel. I've always had that itch to go out and travel. And 9/11 happened while I was washing pots and pans and kitchen patrol and basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, back before it was forced to change their name and started erasing history. But we can talk about that later. And I realized, like, holy crap, might be going off to war. But, I was okay with that, right? So I spent 10 years in the infantry, multiple deployments there. And about 10 years in, I saw some guys out. I was with a sniper team out in Sadr City, Iraq. And I remember we were trying to get a good firing position we had some enemy that was across this route from us. And we used to get in it with these guys every single day as we were essentially cordoning off this section of the city with these giant T-walls. I was up there and we could not get a good position with our sniper rifles. And this group of bearded, tattooed, barrel-chested freedom fighters came up and was like, "Hey, what are you guys doing up here?" And we're like, "Well, we're trying to get a good line of fire down here to cover this area." And they're like, "All right, give us a sec." And they put something together and slapped on the wall and blew an explosive hole, a loophole as we call it, in there. They're like, "Yeah, now you guys can shoot through that." And they're like, "Give us your rifles." And they went and checked our rifles and adjusted some things. And they're like, "All right, bro, see you guys later." And I was like, "Who the heck are these guys?" And they're Green Berets, right? And I remember I'm like, man, if I'm going to do something, and I always, to this day, I always follow rule number 1, which is always look cool. And I was like, I want to be like these guys, right? So I decided to try out for the Green Berets, and I made that. And I've spent my last 10 years as a Green Beret out of 5th Special Forces Group right here at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
It seems like, I guess since Bin Laden, we hear a lot more about Navy SEALs than Green Berets. Tell us about the whole Green Beret process. How difficult is it? Is it just the same as the Navy SEALs, or I don't know, just...
Yeah, we have different mission sets, right? And I always kind of joke, right? You don't hear a lot about the Green Berets because we don't get, part of our training isn't how to write a book and talk about the stuff that we did. But
there's a little shot.
Jimmy, how do you know if someone's a Navy SEAL?
Yeah, right. They'll tell you. You're like CrossFitters. But it was the difference really is we specialize in unconventional warfare. And just to get into Green Berets is super difficult. You do the tryout is called 2 Weeks in Hell is its nickname. And they just physically, mentally, they just break you down and see if you can survive it. And once you make that 2-week tryout, you then put in to get assigned, and you'll get selected or not. You call it selection. And if you're selected, you then go to Fort Bragg or Liberty or whatever the heck they call it now, another name change. But you go out there, and for me at the time, it took me about 20 months or so to earn my Green Beret because we learned a language. Arabic was my target language. We learned a job specialty. I started off, I was a 18 Echoes, what they call us, a Special Forces Communications Sergeant. Then we go through our small unit tactics. We go through survival training, SEER school. So we have a introductory phase. So all of this is 18 months of training. So really what we are designed to do is to work by, with, and through indigenous populations to help influence not just what they're doing mission-wise, but influence their entire nation from within. And you might hear like, the U.S. is not getting involved. We're not putting boots on the ground, but you have 500 military advisors. Those are Green Berets that are on the ground. And yes, we are in the military, but we're working through them to build up their capability to fight from within their own country. And we work a lot with rebel forces. Now, on the other side, Navy SEALs do a bit of that, and they're trying to, in my opinion, they're kind of encroaching in on what our job set is. But if you're looking for somebody to go take out Bin Laden or rescue a hostage that's on an airplane or something, like you're not going to get anybody better than the Navy SEALs to go do that. Those guys are really good at what we call DA, which are direct action missions, HR hostage rescue. We do have that capability as well, but we are known as soldier diplomats. And then while you don't hear as much about us, we're also known as quiet professionals. So what I do now, and kind of being the forefront of a nonprofit organization, and I was just talking to Kevin about this right before we stepped in here, is like, it was really uncomfortable for me to be on camera a lot and talk about what I'm doing because it's not encouraged. We don't encourage that within the Special Forces community. And the Special Forces, if anybody says they're in Special Forces, there's only one Special Forces. That's the United States Army Special Forces. The rest are in the Special Operations community. So we'll make sure people understand that too. But no, they're very, very necessary. You know, I have a bunch of Navy SEAL friends. I have a lot of them in our Heal the Heroes program, but just different skill sets.
Don't forget to check out and hit that subscribe button for the BYOG Bring Your Own Guitar YouTube channel. Jeffrey Steele and I are hosting awesome musical guests with one-of-a-kind interviews and performances. Trust me, you're gonna love it.
Bring your own guitar.
So now that you're out of the service and you're serving here at home, so when we say, hey, Aerial Recovery and Jeremy Locke have shown up in Pacific Palisades, what are you doing?
Well, it works out great because I just took the same model that we did in the Special Forces community, or I did when I was deployed there, and I put it into Aerial Recovery. And we are enabling the responders that are out there that might be overwhelmed with the how large these fires may be, or the amount of people that are affected. And a lot of people need to understand too, like, as much as you train, and I trained all the time as a Green Beret, did I ever once fight in East Nashville where my home is? There's a big difference when you have trained for something and that disaster has hit you at home. You're worried about your family, your friends. It's really a psychological difficulty. So to me, it's super important to have people that come from the outside to augment and help you, because you're not just doing a mission, you're doing it at home, and there's a lot more emotional difficulties that come with that. So any outside help that we can bring in, that's what we do. If it wants, I mean, we have really high end stuff from, a lot of people have Starlinks now, but we were using that capability a long time ago when we were out in Ukraine, working out in Ukraine when the full scale invasion happened. But we're really there to bolster them and be a blessing and an asset to be utilized by that local or national authority to help them with their operational capability.
We heard a lot about homeowners getting looted and things. Is that something you guys are there to help prevent, to provide that kind of security?
Absolutely. We call those kind of like second and third order effects. Like, while we're primarily there to initially do search and rescue missions and assist with communications and infrastructure repair and all that stuff, yes, when we go places, a lot of people don't mess with people that look like me. And then when you go to a wonderful state like North Carolina out there, and we'll go and we're legally, we can go carry out there, and we'll go and just we're not trying to scare anybody, but if you see one of us walking around with a weapon, you're going to be less likely to be going and looting people. And honestly, we protect some of those looters. Like, first of all, knock it off, right? People have been affected by the worst thing ever that's just happened to them potentially in their entire lives, and you're going to go take advantage of that situation. Yeah, we'll go there, and we protect them from those homeowners too, because they're out for blood. Like, I would not be surprised, especially in North Carolina, some of those out in those hills, people would be strung up out there, like getting caught looting.
We go back to the 1840s. You get caught stealing cattle, they string you up, and we're capable of that exact type of behavior.
Oh yeah. We still got ropes.
And Jeremy, talk about being the first on the ground. I've been with you guys up in Mayfield and up in Clarksville for the tornado response, and we were the first ones and the only ones on the ground. Talk about that. What's that like?
Yeah, and it's so important, right? If you, that's a great example of it. And another one I have too was down in Milton. Hurricane Milton hit right after Helene. Basically, went through this pretty much the same area, hitting the Gulf of Florida. And there's a lot of restrictions that the local firefighters or first responders have. Like, they got to hunker down, right? And they wait for the storm to go over, and they wait for daylight, and then they go start doing their operations. We get a call, and we're in a parking garage, and there's other first responders around there. And when I say those first responders, those are fire and EMS and all of that, and we're protecting our equipment. But we get a call, and we say, hey, there's water rising in this lower income area in right out there outside of Tampa. And so we just checked our winds, and we're like, all right, we're going to have to detach the boat, but let's go. So we're out driving in the middle of the storm while the hurricane is going over, but we were able to go down there and rescue a family. They had a young toddler that we had to pull out of their house. There was another 3 women and their dog that wouldn't have been rescued because there's nobody else out there except for us, because we have the ability as a nonprofit to accept a certain amount of risk. And going through and being through the types of environment we have, I've got over 5 years of combat experience. A lot of my guys, for better or worse, we look for situations like that. And I can talk a little bit more on that on the mental health aspect of it. But I feel more comfortable in dangerous situations sometimes than I do, most of the time, than I do in just normal everyday situations. I kind of say that we look for chaos because we're comfortable in the chaos, but it makes you a great asset when you're in a chaotic situation.
Maybe it's just you become kind of a risk junkie. That some people like to get high on drugs, other people like to get high on the risks they take. Eva Knievel was. You guys are younger than me.
Oh, I know.
But and that is the nature of true male masculinity. We are built to take risk, and some of us just are in better shape to take more risk than others, and just a bit more willing. But that we can go there right now. That can become a flaw, perhaps, or the closer you get to death, the more exciting it is. The more risks you take, the more exciting it is. And I know you maybe had that struggle and went to the other side a little bit.
Yeah, and I've I can get into this too, but I got out of the military in 2020 is when I put my retirement packet in, and this coincides with when my now wife and I were deciding and creating Aerial Recovery as it is now. And when I put my retirement packet in right there at Fort Campbell, the first thing to do is they start taking a look at your medical records and all these things that I've never gone and seen a doctor for, because I want to make sure I'm not taking an E in my team, or never, God forbid I go to mental health, because that's the ultimate weakness. And when they look at that, they kind of start forcing you to do some stuff, right? And one of them for me was I've been involved in some IED blasts and
IED blasts.
So improvised explosive devices. I've been in some vehicles when some bad guys had put some bombs in, and we drove over them and blew us. Called getting blown up is what we call it, right? So I have concussions from that, and they forced me into this program called Intrepid Spirit, which they take an image of your brain and they check all this stuff out. And this is the precursor to like CTE and all of that. So I've been diagnosed with traumatic brain injury, and I have multiple traumatic brain injuries. So they assist and help you. But in doing this, it's a great program, don't get me wrong, but they put you in this room, and you're kind of in like a conference room, and they've got like a neurologist, psychologist, the behavioral health people, they've got all physical therapists, and they all look at your case and they come up with a care plan. And this is a year-long program that they have. So it's a really great program. But for me, I was assigned a psychologist, and this is during everybody's favorite time, COVID, right? So this is not an in-person psychologist. This is a virtual psychologist that I see every 2 weeks, and for an hour Zoom call or whatever, right? So my very first Zoom call with this woman, and this is, I think, especially if you're a veteran, you'll probably really relate to this. She does the introductions and stuff with me, and then she asked me, she's like, hey, tell me about like a traumatic event from your time in the military. One that doesn't come to your head immediately, one that maybe you got to think about a little bit to kind of remember. And I was like, okay, well, these memories I put in this big box inside of me and drowned it with alcohol for the last 10 years. So I didn't want to go after this thing, but I'm like, all right, I'll play this game. I'll open it up. So I remember pulling this memory out, and this was in another time in Iraq where we got this report of a mass genocide. There was hundreds of people that were murdered and buried in a grave, and we have to go out and investigate this. This is when I was in the infantry still. So my squad goes out there, and we take our gloved hands, and we have these little shovels we call e-tools. They're only about this big, and we start digging in this spot. We don't really know if we're going to find anything, expect to find anything really. Usually these are just people trying to get paid, but sure enough, I dig deep enough in there, and I unearthed this little kid's hand, and it's probably a 5-year-old, 6-year-old's hand, and been in there decomposing for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And we start unearthing this whole thing, and sure enough, there's 200-300 bodies here. And now I remember the smell, the sight. I had nightmares about it, and I had buried this inside of me, right? Which is, if you're a psychologist or a mental health provider, you're like, you don't want to bury stuff, right? But I was real good at burying things inside of me. Now I'd unearthed this, and after I explained this to her, she's like, wow, that's really terrible. I'm so sorry that happened. Bing, our time is up. I'll speak to you again in 2 weeks. Oh boy. And I'm like, okay, right? So now 2 weeks are going by, and in that time, nightmares are coming back, daymares are coming back. I'm anxious. I can't sleep. I'm at this time, I'm trying to get sober so I can start doing aerial recovery stuff and really follow what I believe God's path and purpose he has for me, and doing what any good special forces soldier would do is identify what are my strengths and weaknesses. And to me, alcohol was my weakness. How do I eliminate that so I can accomplish my mission? But now I'm in a really bad mental space. So I start drinking again, and then I speak to her after 2 weeks, and she's like, well, how are you feeling? And I tell her all these things. I feel terrible, right? Like, I have no tools to deal with this. I feel really bad. And she's like, that's okay. We'll help you out. Boom. Zoloft, Xanax, Wellbutrin, Adderall. I tried all of them. I'm on all of them. So now I'm not even the version of Jeremy. Like, I'm another version, because now I'm on these pills, and I haven't done these pills. I'm the worst pill taker there is. If it's, here's your 5 things for an antibiotic. I take 1 pill and I feel good. I'm going to stop with the cycle, right? Like, I'm the worst one at it. So I'm taking these things, and now I'm just becoming a shadow of myself. And this really led me down farther into a point of my life that I really started contemplating, should I be here? Do I need to be here? And I've had I had an exit strategy for a long time, a suicide plan that I had for 5 years, and I thought about it and during various times of my life. And sure enough, on December 5th of 2020, I'd just gotten back from Hurricanes Eta and Iota in Honduras and helped a bunch of people out there. I'm on these medications. I'm in my process of getting out of the military, but I'm still starting to do aerial recovery stuff. And I take these, I get back and I go out with my friends. And I'm telling you right now, anybody who's listening to this, if you're trying to get sober, you're trying to get clean, you're trying to better your life, change the people you're around and change the environment you're in, because you got to cut those anchors loose, and you got to get with people that want to be there, want to be that light, that beacon for you in life. Amen. And I was around those anchors. And, we go shooting. Next thing leads to we're going to go listen to music. I go listen to music. Next thing I know, I wake up 11 o'clock in the morning at bottom level of my duplex in East Nashville off of Ordway Street. And I have 30 missed calls from my wife and friends trying to check on me. I'm off the wagon again. And that was strike number 6 probably with my fiance. So I'm thinking this is done. And my retirement packet's in. No more Army. That was my whole image of myself. No more aerial recovery, where I thought God was pulling me to. No more mission. What's the point of life? And I'm still, kind of drunk. I'm still kind of high on these pills. And I decide to enact my suicide plan. And I had this all rehearsed and well thought through, just like any Green Beret would. I took my Glock 19 preferred sidearm of the Green Berets out of my nightstand. And I have a history of mental health issues in my family too, which makes me a little bit more susceptible to it. And I was afraid that if my family knew for sure that I committed suicide, there were 2 people very close to me in my family that would follow suit because they have attempted it in the past as well. And So I had this plan to pretend like I was cleaning my weapon. I was going to shoot myself in the left femoral artery. I've seen people die out for femoral bleeds. 3 minutes, I'll go unconscious. 5, 6 minutes, I'll no longer be here. Maybe they'll think it was an accident while I was cleaning my weapon. And as I get there and I've got my hand on the trigger and my gun pressed up against my thigh, I was at peace. But that wasn't me, and that was the enemy. That was the enemy after me, and that was the enemy almost victorious, because he knew what God had in store for me, and he knew the amount of people that Aerial Recovery was going to rescue from disasters, and he knew the children we were going to save from human trafficking. And he was right there telling me and whispering in my ear, pull that trigger, pull that trigger, pull that trigger. But God intervened 2 ways that morning. The first one is, contrary to everything I ever do in protection, which I'm very security conscious, I hadn't locked my bedroom door. I had a little Great Dane named Captain. It was a present to my fiance. I hadn't put him in his cage because I was too drunk to, I guess. And when I was sitting there, content, ready to listen to the enemy, that little puppy pushed that door open and came and sat and looked at me. And I was like, well, man, there's going to be blood all over this dog. I can't kill myself with this dog right here. So I started thinking logistics, right? And I'm coming a little bit out of that hole. So I put the gun aside. I go and put the dog in the bathroom. I go back. I sit back down and get myself back into it, still feeling pretty good. And I'm like, well, you know what? Like, someone's got to check on that dog. That's how we get sometimes. And I say anybody can relate to what I'm talking about. Like, we always think about other people than ourselves, other animals than ourselves. That at that point, that dog's life was worth 1,000 times more than I valued my own life. And I was like, someone needs to check on that dog. You might starve in the bathroom. So who of my friends would be strong enough to come over, take care of my dog, but possibly find me in the bedroom dead from a gunshot wound? And this is the second way God intervened. And this is how I knew that I had my purpose partner, my partner for life, and my wife, Brittany Turner. I took a look at that, and I had a message from her. And even though I is a type of guy that will run into a firefight, that'll do anything to defend our country and defend the innocent, I was at that point where I was afraid to look at a text message from a human being to me right before I'm about to kill myself. But luckily I had the preview on. And when I see it, I had a message of love from her. And she could have done what most anybody would have and been chewing me out. And I'm not saying her messages prior to that weren't upset at me, but God had spoken to her and she breathed life to me in that text message. And it was something to the effect of, I know that you are sick and I know that you are hurting. I don't know if we can be together, but I love you and I will help you. And I really caution anybody, no matter how mad you are at someone, especially if they're close to you, if you don't know the circumstances or the mindset that they're in, simple thing as a text message could be the thing that puts them over the edge to kill themselves or potentially harm other people. So be the power of your words, the power of the spoken mouth, the power of your text messages, that can influence a life-ending or a life-giving decision on the other end. And thanks to the Lord, I had a life-giving message to me. And I remember taking a look at that message, and the enemy pushed away. God filled me up a little bit right then and there, and that was December 6, 2020. And that's also the date I went sober. And I've been sober since that day until this day, and I will continue to be sober for the rest of my life. And I really believe that God has a mission, a plan, and a purpose for all of us. And if you feel down and out, there's that saying, right? Like, the enemy strikes the hardest when you're over the target. You're close to something. Find the Lord, find Jesus, find the Word. If you don't know the Word, you don't know how to hear God, find somebody who does, because God is whispering and telling you and ready to inspire you to go out and help people in this world. And we've all got a plan and a purpose together. And that's my story, and that's what I continue to do. And I choose to use the vehicle of Aerial Recovery. Amazing supporters and human beings like Kevin Donahue here. And we go out and we help those most in need. And we do that through the heroes that we deploy. And that's why we created the Heal the Heroes program at Aerial Recovery, a year-long healing program. I'm affectionately known as Hero One. We've got 200 plus members of our program now. And those are our operators that go out and do God's work and rescue people after these natural and man-made disasters and rescue people that are in the clutches of human trafficking. And it's something I've been so proud to be involved in. And I know if you just stick it out a little bit longer and you find that purpose and passion, you will step into light and you will be inspired, and life is still going to go like this, but you know, it will go back up. And in telling your story, you can inspire other people to go out and get out of that darkness and step into the light that God has in store for us all.
Jeremy, we see these big, strong, fit men that are Green Berets, Navy SEALs, FBI, one of the things I think about all the time, and just even listening to your story, the full story, the whole conversation we've been talking about, is what we don't think about is like, you guys see so much darkness and see so much truth. I mean, like real truth that they just don't put in the media, that we don't understand. Like, these guys are carrying a really heavy load because they know too much and they've seen too much. And they don't have anybody to share it with, because there's not many guys that know what you know that could even follow your conversation. And so some of what it's isolating, being a Green Beret, being someone that goes to dangerous places and saves little children that are being trafficked, or and so there's probably, and we can share with by sharing your story, you're helping a lot of other guys that are 10 years younger than you that are in the same mental space and need to know you got to be a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah.
Or you're going to get swallowed up by it.
Absolutely. To me, there's no greater strength than being able to be vulnerable. And yes, you have to be careful about the type of people you're vulnerable around. But, just as we're trained to in the military, we don't want the enemy to know what our supply levels are, how many rounds I got left in my gun. Like, why would we tell them that? But there's something liberating and free about being able to let this stuff that's bottled up inside of us out, and to release it. And it will help you. It does help you. And I encourage, I've never been comfortable. It took me a long time to talk about my suicide story. It took me a long time to talk about the being raped as a young boy. Like, I am comfortable with talking about these things now. And every time, it just in the true spirit of thinking about other people before myself, sometimes I've seen these stories and people come out and speak for the first time on these stuff, that the shame and guilt that they've had inside of them for something that's not their fault. And like, how dare those people that have hurt you, how dare they still have a power over you? And by you not being comfortable and getting that and letting that stuff out and speaking it out, they still somehow control you years, decades later. And the true liberating feeling of that is saying, no, you don't control me. You don't own me. You don't guide my life anymore. I control my own life, and I control it again with that power of my mouth and what I choose to speak about.
Well, and Jeremy, part of your Heal the Heroes program is you take people out of their everyday environment. You take them out of the environment, and then you bring them resources. You actually had me on to talk to these guys one time.
Yeah.
And you bring in all kinds of resources, people they would never meet otherwise. Talk about that, like how you help these guys. These are all mostly veterans, correct?
Yes, absolutely. They're veterans and first responders. And it's super important to offer them different pathways, right? And I'm not a mental health provider, and I have nothing against mental health providers. I don't even have anything against the woman I spoke to that, got me onto medication. I tell people all the time, like, I was willing to walk around with a bologna sandwich in my back pocket if it made me feel better. Maybe like a Happy Gilmore thing, like take one shoe off or whatever it is, But to me, providing a pathway, because everybody's healing journey is different. So that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide that safe place where they can be vulnerable.
Right.
The community that you spoke of, where they feel comfortable and they are around those that do understand their stories, and then bring in different experts and different ways, whether it's a chaplain or, we've even had people go and connect people to plant medicine journeys. And I just want people to get better so they can follow what God has intended for them. I want them to stay on this earth. And I can tell you, we select those that are suicidal. We select those that are struggling. That's how we pick them to come to our program. And we have lost Zero. And even if some of them may fade away and some are still stronger in the community, but they're all still alive. And I don't care if somebody has something bad to say about me that's in the program. I hope they don't, but I don't care. You're still alive.
Right.
That's a W for me, you know?
Jeremy, you said something that I have to follow up on. I don't know how far I want you to go with it because I don't know if I can handle it. But you said you were violated as a young person. Mm-hmm. How did that happen, or what, can you walk us through any of that?
Yeah, it happened to me on a couple different occasions. I'll touch on one of them. You got to be very careful about where you take your kids. And I'm a father, a new father now. I have a 1.5-year-old, and we used to go. I was in elementary school. This would put me at probably second grade or something like that. And we used to go to this Oma and Opa is what we called them, and they were this older couple, and there was a bunch of kids there that would watch for 3 or 4 hours after school before our parents would come pick us up. And there's probably 10, 15 kids that would go to this house, and they had a basement down there. And it was so interesting because our mind is very good at protecting us for better or for worse. And I always had this memory where, we would go in the basement, and there was these 2 older teens that were there. And they used to play this game where they would tie us up, and then they would take kids into this back room, the 2 of them, and they would molest them. And the way I always remembered it was, it happened one time. I was tied up down there, and I remember saying I had to go to the bathroom, and I went up and I told Oma or Opa that we were come downstairs, we need help. And when I really started diving into it and thinking and trying to dig the memory up, this is something that happened to me for a month. And I was one of those kids that was brought back into that back room, and I was molested. I was penetrated. I was forced to do things to these older kids. And I was ashamed of it. And I buried it so deep in my macho ego or something that I don't ever want to talk about it. And, and another time was with a family member that I used to see, it happened over multiple summers. And I used to see this guy, and I was afraid he's a cousin of mine. I was afraid to even talk to him about it. And I'm twice as big as the dude now, but he still controlled me. And being able to confront and talk about and try to understand, it's awkward and difficult, but it's done immense things for my mental health and my psychological well-being to know that stuff did happen to me, but it wasn't my fault. And I have noticed in our program, a lot of our veterans, they have child sexual trauma, or they have child abuse, physical trauma. And it makes you far more likely when you're put in a traumatic situation to develop post-traumatic stress because you've experienced it as a kid. So it makes you more likely to have it later in life. And I think that's why we get them attracted to us, because we take in veterans and first responders that do have post-traumatic stress. So they're the ones we want.
Your background in terms of your parents, married, divorced, how much supervision was there for you as a child?
So my parents were divorced when I was younger. I was 7 years old. My sister was 3. My dad is an amazing human being. He moved to the other side, from the Portland area.
Yeah.
He moved to the other side of Portland. My mom moved to the eastern side of Portland. So we're about an hour away from each other. I used to see him every other weekend. He was my sports coach and all of that. But it's so interesting when I look back on it to think about how much responsibility I was given as a kid. And when I say that, what I mean is because of the lack of supervision. And my mother, and again, I have a father, but I didn't have a father in a household. Yep. And my mom, I love her, and I love you, Mom. She worked multiple jobs, and she's an alcoholic, just like me. And she would have parties at her apartment. She, all these things were going on. So when I was a little kid, I spent a lot of my time protecting my little sister and keeping people out of our bedroom. And making sure she was ready for school the next day. And these are the little things that me as an 8, 9, 10-year-old, I shouldn't have to be doing that stuff, right? And then seeing my mom, I love her. Like, we love her. And we knew, at least I knew, if I was taken away from my mom and went to my father, I don't know if my mom would have survived that. She would have drank herself to death, or she would be dead. I just firmly believe that. I knew that as a little kid. And those are just things a little kid shouldn't have to deal with. And that's the idea, and it's generational. Like it's a cliche, but you got to break these generational curses, right? Yes, and you break that through prayer. You break that through understanding that, my wife and I brought a little baby into this world, and he doesn't just say mama and dada now. He says mama dada. Like, he connects us both together. It's literally how he says our names. It's mama dada, and we have a responsibility for him. And, we still have a spiritual mother that we talk to on a very regular basis. And she always tells us she was our premarital counselor and she's our postmarital counselor now. She always tells us, like, I'm not here for you, Brittany. I'm not here for you, Jeremy. I am here for Bear. I am here to keep you strong for Bear, because that little boy deserves to have a father and mother that don't give up on each other, to understand that he can grow up and he has that in his life. And both my wife and I are divorced. We have previous marriages, and we need to break that and show him the right way, because he's only ever known us together. So we have the opportunity to break that. And I believe the obligation to work through the marriages, you want it to be really easy, but like any relationship, it does get difficult. And the enemy, just like he hates you following God's purpose for you, the enemy hates marriage. He hates that covenant. He hates anything between two people and God. And he wants to step in there. So just being understanding, and, man, I'll tell you, I hate the enemy. So I'm going to do anything, whether that's the enemy of Middle East or the enemy, down below. Like, I'm going to do anything to fight that. And I think we have a responsibility to really stick it out and fight. You're willing to go overseas and fight. Why are you not willing to go back to your house and fight in the right way and fight for your marriage? And I think that's super important, because I didn't see that when I was a kid, but I had the opportunity to show that to my son.
Strong.
This is a part of repentance. You've been married and divorced. Now you're in the repentance process, a change of behavior to make sure that doesn't happen again, and that your child receives proper blessing. The other thing the reason I asked you about your upbringing is because it's these consequences of the breakdown of the American family. We deny them. And we don't understand that we're going to have to answer to God for what we've done to kids, because my parents divorced around the same time as I think my brother was 7 and I was 5. And so, and again, my dad has passed. My parents were great, but they divorced, and we were in the ghetto. And in the ghetto, there's nothing but destroyed families. And so there's no real supervision from adults, and kids without supervision get into all kinds of mischief, and then older kids take advantage of younger kids. Older adults take advantage of younger kids, and it's a big problem in the inner city that never gets talked about. Some of these guys that have no sexual discipline, no one wants to talk about it. It's because some 28-year-old, 300-pound woman got a hold of that boy when he was 12 years old and was satisfying herself with a young child, and now has left him with this curse for the rest of his life. No sexual discipline. He doesn't even realize he was molested. Yeah. And so I just, when you said that, it reminded me, but for the grace of God, the exact same you experienced, I would have experienced where we were growing up. And we moved out to a more working class suburb. My mom did. She took a second job, and it was in a more family environment where there was a lot more two-parent families. So there was a lot more supervision. And we assimilated into that rather than what I had been. But it's just so important that people that we as Americans, the destruction of family, and this is where I take inspiration from both of you guys. Kevin and I talk about it quite a bit. Kevin's obviously gotten married late, just had a kid. You just had, is this your first kid?
First kid.
Yeah, first kid. You're over 40, I think.
Yep, 41.
And so, it's a message out there to those of us single men or men that haven't done right. It's never too late to repent, do what God wants you to do, experience the benefits that Jeremy has experienced from his wife saved his life. You know, the guy's going to die if she doesn't text him. His wife is putting together a strategy to go help people in some other country. It's given him a purpose with this aerial recovery. You guys are doing great things. It's and just your willingness to share this type of trauma that you went through and to let people know there is an other side to that. This is all important. This is what God wants us to do as men, to really be masculine. Yes, we should go out and risk our lives to protect women and children, but we also got to be strong enough to help other men get through what we're all suffering from and encourage us to repent and to be better men. And that's, Kevin, this is a great introduction because obviously Kevin has been involved with Fearless and obviously been involved with you guys. But, we're just trying to elevate men and give them the tools they need and connect them with God. And then just the other thing I wanted, just this is a joke I wanted to crack. I'm sorry, my mind's going, but I want to go back. When you were a kid, are you telling me when you were trapped in that home with your mom and your sister and everything, there wasn't a sign on your front door that said white privilege? Don't everything else. There wasn't.
No, there wasn't one there.
Just kept everybody at bay.
I didn't. No, I didn't.
That didn't
I didn't
happen?
see that. No.
Kevin, that did happen to you, right?
Yes, I had that.
Yeah,
sign.
you had that sign.
Yeah.
All my
Loan it
shirts
to
say it on
me.
the tags.
I mean, because that's what cracks me up about this world. Is like I'm listening to Jeremy's story, and I'm like, yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, I know that. And I'm like, and damn, he's white. He had the same struggles as me. Isn't that something?
Yes,
But,
sir.
you had white privilege. And
Yeah. Wish I would have known that back then.
you would have been eating the Ruth Chris back
Yeah,
then.
I know.
But on a serious note, the reason I'm honored if you guys would help me out at Roll Call with Tucker and Randy Hauser, just to have your energy in, because the other synergy we have is that your military background. One of the things that comes from that is when you're in the same foxhole with people and it's a life or death situation, you just want the man next to you to do his job.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't care what color he is.
No.
And you don't care if his daddy's rich or his daddy's poor. Just do your job. Same thing. I'm from a sports background, football. We analogize it to the military because it's got some of the same concepts. And so I've been great friends with people from very different backgrounds than me that just, hey, they did their job, I did my job, and we won games. And to see America move away from what you experienced in the military, what I experienced playing college football, to see us move away from that just destroys me. And so that's Roll Call is about men. Let's quit caring about these superficial differences. We're all in the same foxhole here, gentlemen. They're trying to kill this American idea, this meritocracy, this freedom that we have to be men and to be leaders. And we got to get past our superficial differences. And I'm sure it's one of the great experiences of the military. It certainly was of my athletic career.
Yeah. We have that obligation. And I despise the way that America seems to be moving now, and the willingness to say that it's okay to be soft, and these men, the femininity that's coming in and trying to wash away the masculinity. It's absurd. And that's one of the biggest things I tell my veterans, and this happened to me when I was getting out. Everybody's, you've deployed 5 years, you've got this many combat tours, you've seen this, you've been blown up, relax, calm down. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay to take a little bit of a break, but no, God has put certain people on this earth to protect, and that's every man, especially every husband and every father, to be protectors. Whether that's at home, if you think that being a good father and a good husband isn't as respectful as someone who goes out and helps people in other countries, you are dead wrong, because you are the preventative measure that makes it so other people don't have to go out and help other people. That's where it starts first, is your home base. And that's what I tell these veterans is that itch, that feeling, that fire, that desire to stand up and rise up and raise your voice and fight for something. Do not lose that. Do not lose that. That's God is telling us. God creates warriors on this earth to end the problems. There's no such thing as like, well, why did God allow that to happen? No, God created you to make that not happen anymore. We can't do it. A good father can't do everything on his own. He needs his children to step up and pull their weight too. And that's what God is doing with us. So we got to get away from this femininity. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love when my wife is feminine. Don't get me wrong. But we have to get away from this lack of masculine, this pressure for us to take a knee and sit down and calm and relax and be soft. What is that adage? Like, easy times create
soft men,
yeah, soft.
Weak men, and weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
Strong men create good times.
It's a cycle.
Yeah, it's a cycle. Like we do not need to fall in that cycle. We need strong and tough men to fight at home and fight for what is righteous and what God has for us. And everybody has a path. We just have to find it and surround yourself with people just like your group. Put those people, come together, build an army for the Lord, come together, and let's go do some good in the world.
How do people support Arrow Recovery? How do they find you? How do they help if you guys need help?
Yeah, so we have the easiest way is to go to aerialrecovery.org. Our website there has all of our pillars, what we stand for, what we believe in, what we do. Of course, we're a nonprofit, so donations absolutely help. But if you go on there and you are a struggling veteran or first responder, you know a struggling veteran or first responder, you can sponsor and just nominate somebody for our program. Get them to us. Let's keep them alive. Let's put them back on purpose. Let's put you back on purpose so you can go out and fight the evil that is running rampant in this world.
Kevin, you got any final thoughts? Or?
I mean, I'm just proud of you. I'm proud to be involved with Aerial Recovery
Kevin knows
Group.
I hate the word proud. We're very pleased with you, Jeremy. But anyway, go ahead. We're very pleased.
Yeah, I mean,
it's great. We're grateful for you. Thank you.
Well, very grateful. And, these guys also train folks to be on the court. I tell people, get out of your own selfish ways, get out of your environment, and go volunteer. Go help people. Mm-hmm. These guys are the best trained in the world, and I'm sitting side by side and walking side by side into total disaster areas with these guys. I mean, I'm in Lviv, Ukraine with these guys, and they had an orphan rescue mission. I've never been in a war zone before. We're in the safe house, and the airport fuel depot is getting bombed. Mm-hmm. There's air raid sirens every night. But guess what? I'm on the court with these guys, special forces guys. And I mean, how many orphans were rescued while we were there?
We rescued over about 800 orphans.
Yeah, that's one mission. These guys are on missions all the time. They have training plans so people can get involved with these guys and, donate. They're just a great organization.
Thank you very much.
Jeremy, thank you so much for making the time. Anytime you're in town, we'd love to have you in any conversation we do. But it was great to get to know you and your story. It's inspiring. I think we'll title this show Jeremy Locke's White Privilege.
Yes.
As explained.
Thank you. Newly discovered.
On Harmony. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.